When I picked up my phone on Christmas Eve to ask my mother whether I should bring the spiced apple pie or the dark chocolate tart, I expected her usual passive-aggressive critique of my baking. Instead, the line went dead silent. Then came her icy, dismissive voice. "Don't bother showing up, Colleen. We had dinner yesterday. We already celebrated without you." My stomach plummeted. I stood in my kitchen surrounded by 3 days' worth of wrapped gifts, homemade pastries, and the receipt for the $45,000 remodel I had secretly funded on her house as a surprise. That was the exact moment I realized my family didn't just forget me, they used me. But as I stared at the festive boxes on my counter, the heartbreak vanished, replaced by cold calculation. If they could erase me from a holiday, I could erase the safety net keeping them afloat. Welcome back to BT Revenge Tales, where we expose the truth and serve the sweetest justice. Stay tuned until the very end to see how one calculated phone call turned their celebration into pure panic, and let me know in the comments below. What city are you watching from today? My name is Colleen Hayes. At 32 years old, I had built a successful career as a senior digital marketing director in Seattle, but to my family, I was never anything more than an unpaid safety net. For as long as I could remember, my mother, Evelyn, had treated my existence as a transaction. Whenever the mortgage fell behind, the car needed repairs, or property taxes were due, I was the dutiful daughter who wrote the checks. Meanwhile, all the warmth, pride, and praise were reserved exclusively for my younger brother, Julian, the charming golden boy who couldn't hold a steady job to save his life. Standing in my kitchen on Christmas Eve, holding that dead phone, the silence was deafening. Spread across my dining table was an official folder containing the deed release and final contractor invoices totaling $45,000. I had spent the last 4 months secretly financing a full-scale renovation on my mother's decaying Victorian home, planning to hand her the paid-in-full title as the ultimate holiday surprise. Instead, I had just been tossed aside like garbage. With trembling fingers, I opened Instagram, and my feed instantly shattered whatever remaining illusions I had left. Posted just 2 hours earlier on Julian's fiancé's page was a full photo carousel titled, "The Whitaker Christmas Feast in Julian's Masterpiece." My breath caught in my throat. There, in high-definition glory, was my mother's home. The custom quartz countertops I had hand-selected, the Italian marble backsplash I had paid thousands to rush order, and the state-of-the-art chef's range were all glittering under warm holiday lighting. Around the new walnut dining table sat my mother, Julian, his fiancé, and her wealthy parents, all raising crystal champagne flutes in a triumphant toast. I scrolled to the comments. Beneath a glowing close-up of the kitchen, my mother had written, "My brilliant son Julian spent months designing and financing this dream home for me. True family devotion." Julian had replied with a smug, "Only the best for Mom." Not a single mention of my name. They had intentionally bumped Christmas up by a day so they could parade Julian as the wealthy hero before the in-laws arrived, using my $45,000 sweat and sacrifice as his stolen spotlight. The shock quickly hardened into a cold, ruthless resolve. I immediately dialed Mark Vance, the general contractor who had overseen the 4-month renovation, followed by a call to my real estate attorney, David Keller. "Colleen, Merry Christmas Eve," Mark answered, his tone hesitant. "I assume you're calling about the project wrap-up?" Mark, who officially signed the permits and authorized the final billing release? I asked directly. Mark paused, letting out a sharp sigh. "Julian showed up at the site last week claiming you authorized him as the project manager. He asked me to reissue the final invoices under his consulting firm's letterhead so he could present them today. But I told him all billing is legally contracted through your corporate LLC, Keller and Hayes Holdings. Without your signature tomorrow, the liens and warranties remain strictly under your name." David Keller, joining our 3-way call, was blunt. "Colleen, legally speaking, the deed transfer you prepared hasn't been notarized or filed with the county clerk. Because you paid off the second mortgage and fronted the structural remodel, you hold a valid, recorded first priority lien on that property. Julian has 0 legal ownership, 0 equity, and you control every utility and fixture attached to that house. Julian hadn't just stolen credit, He had walked straight into a legal bear trap. "David," I said calmly into the phone, "pull the deed, transfer immediately. Nothing gets signed and nothing gets filed." Within an hour, we set the counterstrike into motion. First, I accessed my commercial client portal with the luxury home staging agency. To make the house look pristine for the holidays, I had rented $30,000 worth of designer living room furniture, custom Italian leather chairs, and the 10-seat walnut dining set currently featured all over Julian's social media. Because the rental contract was under my corporate entity, I exercised my early termination clause and booked an emergency commercial repossession for 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Next, I contacted the municipal utility services and high-speed fiber provider. Since every account had been transferred under my LLC during construction to streamline payments, I scheduled an immediate service suspension for non-residential renovation accounts effective midnight. Finally, David filed an expedited notice of property lien with a county recorder, backed by a police escort request for civil property recovery to prevent any interference. Julian and my mother wanted to play house with my money, but Christmas morning was about to bring an entirely different kind of delivery. Christmas morning arrived crisp and freezing. At exactly 8 o'clock, 2 massive commercial moving trucks rolled into my mother's circular driveway, flanked by a marked sheriff's patrol vehicle to oversee the lawful property retrieval. Inside, the holiday fantasy disintegrated in seconds. With the power and heating shut off since midnight, the house was an icebox. The family was huddled in heavy coats when 3 uniformed movers, armed with clipboards and hand trucks, began methodically stripping the house bare. Out went the walnut dining table where they had toasted their fake success, followed by the leather sofas, designer rugs, and luxury light fixtures. My phone lit up like a siren. It was Evelyn, her voice screeching with frantic, unhinged rage. "Colleen, what is the meaning of this insanity? There are armed deputies in my foyer carrying away our furniture. Julian's future in-laws are coming back for brunch, and the heat won't even turn on. You are publicly humiliating this entire family." I leaned back on my sofa with a steaming mug of black coffee, my voice smooth as ice. "I'm not doing anything to your family, Mother. You told me yesterday that you already celebrated without me. Since I'm not part of your holiday, my furniture and utilities aren't either." 30 minutes later, I arrived at the property with David Keller. Julian stormed out onto the frost-covered porch, his face flushed with panicked fury. His in-laws were huddled awkwardly in their car, watching the spectacle in horror. "You psycho!" Julian yelled, waving his phone in my face. "I'm calling the police to have you arrested for trespassing. I paid for this renovation. This is my house." David stepped forward, adjusting his trench coat, and handed Julian a thick manila folder. "Actually, Mr. Hayes, you haven't paid a single dime. These are certified bank statements, registered contractor liens, and county filings proving Colleen holds a $45,000 construction lien and a $60,000 mortgage note against this title. Furthermore, we have recorded audio from the general contractor confirming you attempted to fraudulently falsify commercial billing records under your own name." Julian's aggressive swagger evaporated, his jaw slacking as the color drained from his face. Evelyn burst out of the front door, shivering and sobbing uncontrollably. "Colleen, please stop this. Julian owes $300,000 to hard money lenders. We were going to use your deed gift to take out a cash-out refinance and pay his debts before the wedding." I looked at my weeping mother without an ounce of pity. "You have 30 days to settle my full lien balance of $105,000, or this home goes directly to public foreclosure auction." They couldn't pay. Within 45 days, the court ordered the Victorian home sold at auction to satisfy the outstanding liens. Julian's wealthy fiancée broke off the engagement the very next week, completely humiliated by his exposed fraud and mountain of debt, forcing him to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. My mother had to downsize into a tiny, drafty one-bedroom rental on the far edge of town, finally forced to live within her own means. I took my recovered capital, added my corporate savings, and closed on a gorgeous, sunlit condo overlooking the Puget Sound. For the first time in 32 years, my phone was peaceful, devoid of manipulative guilt trips or demands for money. Cutting toxic family out isn't cruel, it's survival. Would you have cut the cord immediately, or given them one last chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more stories on BT Revenge Tales, and check out the next recommended story on your screen right now.